If you know a little Mexican history, you've probably heard the name Pancho Villa. Revolutionary, outlaw, folk hero, murderer, patriot, depends who you ask. But what if I told you that death didn't stop him? Because for more than a century, people across northern Mexico and even in the United States swear they've seen his ghost, sometimes on horseback, sometimes walking through the desert at night, and sometimes headless. So let's go back to the start, to the man behind the legend and the legend behind the ghost. So who was Pancho Villa? Pancho Villa was born Doroteo Arango in 1878 in the state of Durango, Mexico. He grew up dirt poor, worked as a sharecropper, and like many boys back then, learned early that justice didn't come easy for the lower class. One of the earliest stories says that when Villa was just a teenager, a wealthy landowner tried to assault his sister. Villa shot the man dead, stole a horse, and fled into the mountains. From then on, he lived as an outlaw, stealing from the rich, helping the poor, and building the reputation that would follow him for life. He eventually joined the Mexican Revolution, fighting first under Francisco Madero and later leading his own rebel army known as the División del Norte, the largest revolutionary force in Mexico. For years, Villa was unstoppable. He fought corrupt governments, won battles that seemed impossible, and became both feared and admired. His soldiers adored him, the people in the north called him a hero, and the elites in Mexico City called him a monster. He raided trains, took over towns, and even attacked the United States, crossing into Columbus, New Mexico in 1916. The only foreign attack on American soil until Pearl Harbor. That raid made the U.S. government furious. They sent General John Pershing and thousands of soldiers after him, but they never caught him. By the early 1920s, Villa had grown tired of the war. He agreed to retire from fighting and was granted a hacienda in Parral, Chihuahua, a kind of uneasy peace offering from the government, but he couldn't stay out of trouble for long. On July 20th, 1923, Villa was driving through town in his Dodge Roadster when gunmen ambushed him. Over 40 bullets tore through the car. Villa died instantly. His body was riddled with bullets, and his men said his last words were something like, "Don't let it end this way. Tell him I said something." And that, my friends, is the most Pancho Villa thing ever. But let's turn this a little creepy. It is October. Just a few years after Villa's death, his grave was robbed. Someone broke into the cemetery, decapitated his corpse, and stole his head. To this day, no one knows exactly who did it, but theories are everywhere. Some say it was American treasure hunters or even members of the Skull and Bones Society from Yale University, who supposedly collected the skulls of famous men. Yes, the same group associated with several U.S. presidents. Others say it was people from his own circle who wanted to sell the skull to collectors for a fortune. Either way, Pancho Villa's head was never found, and that's where the ghost stories begin. Locals in Chihuahua, Durango, and Parral started reporting something chilling, a headless horseman galloping through the desert at night. Ranchers say they'd hear the thunder of hooves, the rattle of spurs, and see a man with no head riding a dark stallion, a shimmering outline against the moonlight sand. They called him El Fantasma de Pancho Villa, the ghost of Pancho Villa, restless, searching for his missing head. Others say his spirit guards his buried treasures. Villa was rumored to have hidden gold and weapons all over the desert. Some treasure hunters claimed to see a man who looked exactly like Villa, warning them to stay away before vanishing into thin air. Even today, tourists and truck drivers passing through Chihuahua report seeing a man on horseback dressed in early 1900s military gear. The details are eerily specific. The sash, the boots, even his famous wide-rimmed sombrero. One driver swore that the ghost looked straight at him before disappearing into a dust storm. Another said his radio went static and the temperature dropped suddenly when he saw the rider. His old home, the Hacienda de Canutillo, is now considered one of the most haunted sites in northern Mexico. Visitors say they hear gunfire, shouting, and the horses galloping around the property at night. Some claim to see a man's shadow pacing near the old stables. And guards who have worked there for years say that when the wind hits just right, you can hear Villa's booming voice shouting orders or laughter echoing through the empty halls. Here's what's fascinating. In Mexico, Pancho Villa isn't just remembered as a ghost, he's remembered as a symbol of rebellion, courage, and defiance. Statues of him stand across the country, his history is taught in schools, and yet there's this eerie, unfinished feeling to his legend. Because his body lies headless in the ground, and his ghost, according to countless witnesses, still refuses to rest. Some say he haunts Mexico's deserts because he's still fighting, protecting his people, his land, and maybe his treasure. Often, others will say that his spirit can't move on until his skull is returned to his grave. Either way, one thing is clear. Pancho Villa may have died in 1923, but he's never really been gone. If you like this story, don't forget to like, share, and follow Think Snack for more real-life legends, ghosts, and mysteries from around the world. And my question to you is, do you believe Pancho Villa's ghost still rides through the desert? Or do you think the missing head story is just a legend? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what you think. Okay, until later. Bye.